to this week's episode of Club Thrive, the podcast with me, Kate Sterling. And I am very excited today, absolutely delighted to be welcoming a very special guest to the podcast. We're welcoming Stephanie Baker to the podcast today. Steph's journey began with acne flare-ups, as they often do in our teens. By her mid-20s, she had hoped to simply grow out of it, in inverted commas, but to her absolute dismay, this just did not happen. After several years of experimenting with topical treatments and their medication, her skin still hadn't improved. Steph then began experiencing severe digestive issues and was diagnosed with IBS. She was in a classic style, given a leaflet, told to avoid a range of food groups and then just sent on her merry way. She became obsessed with what she was eating, scared it would trigger a bout of acne or cause digestive upset, which would last for several days until she got it under control again. She would cut out entire food groups, had a very long list of no go-to foods, and would avoid social events in case she felt pressured to have a celebratory drink or a slice of cake. But slowly she felt that food had control over her life, and this was when she simply was trying to manage it rather than even doing anything in response to it. It was at this point she realised she needed to educate herself on digestive and skin health, which is incredibly interesting in this whole journey and its potential links, and how she could empower herself to feel better. And this is now what Steph empowers her clients to overcome too. Her passion is to empower you to take control of your health, to become a happier, healthier version of yourself through personalised nutrition. Steph is a registered nutritionist with AFN and MBANT, and in a more direct sense, if she, or if I even, was to truly summarise Steph's experiences to date, it would be to celebrate that experiencing over a decade of acne and chronic gut issues, she now helps others with acne and inflammatory skin conditions to find healing through personalised nutrition so that they too are able to thrive. Steph, thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here today. What a journey you have been on.
Oh yes, I really have. And it's funny when you just, because sometimes I'm sure it's the same with you. With business, you're constantly always looking forward all the time. And then you just summarizing the journey has brought back some memories of my journey. And it's not often you get to actually sit and reflect and think, yeah, actually, that was quite a journey, because you're constantly looking at the next thing. So yeah, that was it was a good summary and a good reminder as well of why I'm doing what I'm doing as well. So yeah, thank you very much for such a detailed introduction.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so interesting looking over, your journey to get here and to this point in time. And I was kind of, there's celebration in that, but actually, as you're saying, it's a lot. Like, that's a couple of paragraphs that summarizes a decade worth of your life with a massive overview, I'm sure, of some really hard moments and also some moments of real courage. When you were listening back, are there moments in that were like, that kind of sprung out from those real transitional pivots or choices to make a change?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it was a case of, and I'm sure a lot of people have this, I had acne from basically the moment I had my first period. It was that sort of, it was so inherently linked. It was like it just triggered then what the next decade plus of my life looked like. But from 14, I'd always had chronic acne. So by the time I was sort of 23, 24, I'd almost forgotten what I felt like without it. And it got to the point, I think the point for me that really was the big change was going, it doesn't seem to matter what I do or how perfect I am. This isn't changing, and I don't know why. So I think the turning point for me, where I finally actually went to see a nutritionist for my skin, was getting the IBS diagnosis and then my gut getting worse and worse and worse. Yet my diet was, at the time, I thought was perfect. On reflection, incredibly restrictive. But in my, zero sugar, zero carb, zero animal foods. I was on a rotation of maybe 8 foods for my entire diet. So I think I'd got to maybe a bit of a hole with it, because it was controlling my life. It was controlling my social life. It was controlling dating. There was a period in my life of my 20s for about 2 years where I just didn't bother dating at all, because I just thought, I don't want to have them to see me without makeup. I don't want to have to explain why I have this diet to someone and be judged. My life became very small. And then it became so small that I thought it would come down to daily things. I'd have a friend say, do you want to go for a swim? Because I lived in Brighton for a long time. And I'd go, how do I get around this without saying no? Because I'm going to look a certain way. So it just got to a point where I was so, it just took such a knock on my self-esteem from so many different angles. I thought, I'm making my life like this, and I was 27 when I actually saw a nutritionist. And I thought, I've just spent most of my 20s so worried about trying to control this thing that now is completely controlling me. So that was the turning point, really. Was this perfect diet, yet my skin and my gut were just, they were ruling my life. So when I finally saw a nutritionist at 27, and she said, we need to open this diet up, you need to be having fats, you need to be having red meat, which I thought, no, you can't have that. All eggs, I thought, you can't have butter. I was like, you can't have that. And she really opened up my palate. And it was the first time in, honestly, over a decade where I felt I could breathe relief. And I thought, oh my God. And then I worked with her for about 4 to 5 months, and it was life-changing. I felt like it was like starting again. It was odd. It felt like now I'm an adult, which sounds odd, but it really felt like that. Oh, now these are how adult people feel. Oh, well, you learn as you turn to an adult. Everyone's got their things, but I'm like, oh, I'm an adult now. I can walk into a room and the first thing not be somebody's looking at my skin and going, oh, you look a bit young to be here. Well, I'm 27, I used to get that a lot in my last job. You're young for this job. I'm actually 27. I'm not 19. So that was brilliant. And then I think from that, I thought, oh, wow, other people can feel like this. And I'm sure other people have walked the road that I've walked down and gone, well, there's no other option, either medication or an incredibly restrictive diet, which actually doesn't work anyway. So that was pretty much, the turning point. And then did all the studies, and now I do it myself, which is amazing. Amazing.
It must be. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's really easy to forget almost how impactful these moments are. Like that, that, like you're saying about that hyper focus almost on, I must eat healthily and I must do these things that look after my health, and how the irony of it, I know we've kind of touched on this before we started recording, like the irony of how that hyper focus actually takes away more than it's giving. Was that quite a hard shift? Because in a way, with behavior and control and that kind of thing with food, quite specifically, it can feel a bit scary to consider the fact that we can have these other foods and actually we're not going, like, these negative things are not going to happen. Did you find that there was a whole process then almost of like relearning how to eat or relearning how to see these foods?
Yes, my lovely nutritionist at the time, she had a job on her hands, because I would go, but I've read that butter does this. And she's like, right, okay, let's start with this really, tiny bit here on day one, and let's see how your skin reacts. And so you're right, there was a lot of unpicking, a lot of unpicking. And I think it definitely had developed into disordered eating because of the impact it had on my whole life. And I guess I had definitely a form of orthorexia, I'd say, looking back. And I see that a lot with my clients. I'm not surprised, sadly, by that. And yes, I tried to unpick that was very, very hard. And actually, to be honest with you, fully unpicking it probably took a lot longer than the time I worked with her. It was probably a good 3 years after that I finally felt balance, or what I feel is balance. So yeah, you are right. It's a process. It's kind of always a bit of a process, I think.
I think, I can totally agree and understand and empathize that fear of like, but I read these things and I don't want this previous experience with my skin either to come back. And tell us a bit, because I understand my interpretation of orthorexia is a hyper focus or a fixation or disordered eating around, in inverted commas, like healthy foods. Is that right, or is there a broader scope for it now?
So that is it as an umbrella term, but just like with many things, there are different. So it's your definition of healthy as well.
Right.
So for somebody, it could be a zero sugar diet. For somebody else, it could be specific types of sugar. For somebody else, it could be you develop your own rules as to what you believe is healthy. And sadly, that's dictated by the information that we're getting and the algorithm that's being shown to you at that particular time or that particular year. And then you develop your rules around what's healthy around that. So there definitely isn't a definitive diet or way of even eating, to be honest, because somebody's orthorexia I might look at that and go, oh wow, that's unhealthy. At the time I might have done that, and actually, they're looking at mine and thinking, that's why are you eating like that? That's not how you're going to get to where you need to be. So yeah, the umbrella term is your definition of what you think is like the healthiest diet you could possibly have, and there is no wiggle room on that. Absolutely none. If there is, it involves a process afterwards of very critical self-talk, and then that can sometimes then perpetuate the other side. I think with orthorexia, it really is just like with many other eating disorders, it's your own approach to it. But yes, you kind of, your list becomes smaller and smaller over time, because you might read an article that says, I don't know, green peppers are in my list. An article says, oh, green peppers are acidic. You take them out. Now you've only got this, and you take them out. And then after a very long time, you are down to such a small group of super perfect foods, whatever that even means. So
it's actually wild, isn't it, how impactful that can become, but it doesn't happen overnight. It becomes almost this new identity that is embodied. And when you have people that come to work with you now, are they aware that their thinking is like that? Like almost like when you went to work with the nutritionists that you went to work with, do you know that what's going on is perhaps hyperfixation? Or is it that it's just who you are now? And like with the clients that you kind of have to come and see you?
I think actually a lot of relief that my clients get from me is that I do understand. I may not entirely know their journey, because everyone's journey is so different, but I'll have clients come to me and say, you won't believe, but I can't eat this. And I'll say, I can absolutely believe that. And I've seen different variations of rules that people give themselves around their food. And I think actually for a lot of clients, there is a relief in speaking with somebody. There's no shame. We pull all that shame away. And what I make sure I don't start to do is go, well, that's incorrect, or that's incorrect. It's like, okay, where do you see your relationship with food being in 6 months' time? And then we work back from that, rather than, well, actually, you can go down the science a lot with food. And though that's great and everything, I think with acne and food, there is this deep emotional link between the two that you simply cannot ignore. So trying to speak to somebody and saying, if you add eggs in, you're going to get enough protein and these fatty acids that are great. They're going to go, but emotionally, I can't eat that. That's on my no list. So you have to make the contact with the client very human. And when it comes to acne, a lot of it is very emotional. And they have a connection. They believe that acne is them and they are acne. And it's about pulling the person apart from the condition and saying, you might have acne, but you aren't that, and that is not you. And that can be quite a journey for people, but a liberating journey as well.
That's such a fascinating way of looking at it. It's almost like the acne then becomes a person in itself,
100%. We are, and when you have it from a young age, say it came along during puberty, and let's just say you were 12 when it happened, and you're now 30. I see people up to mid-50s, mid-60s that have acne. That's your identity. So it's like, hi, I'm Steph, I'm acne. It's how people, when you start the conversation with them, it's how they just believe it is them, even though acne actually changes a lot. It's interesting. You can have a breakout, you can have a calm week, you can have a whatever that it shape shifts, yet we really see it as actually part of who we are, and life can change it as well. People can have babies and it shifts their skin, or a multitude of things can change it. Yet it's something I see that clients just go, it's who I am. I can't imagine even who I am without it. And sometimes that can get in the way of their progress as well, if they can't see themselves healed or in a good place, because they had it since they were 12. they can't remember their own face without acne.
Yeah, I was
So
going to
it is.
say, sorry, go on.
No, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, like, as you're speaking then, just this idea that, gosh, actually, especially if you have something like that come on after or during a phase like puberty where you're experiencing so many changes anyway, how can someone imagine a life without it? You know, how do you tap into that with a client?
And as well, on top of that, by the time somebody comes to see me, they have tried everything. So they've tried the medical route, they've tried birth control, they've tried Accutane, they've tried Spirulactone, they've tried a range of antibiotics. Usually I am the last resort for a lot of people. So by the time somebody comes to see me, there's a lot going on. It's not like I've had acne for X amount of time. You're the first person I'm speaking to about it. You're the first expert. They've been let down a lot, actually. There's usually quite a list of, doctors and, other people. And then by the time they come and see me, they still have hope, but it is shrouded in a lot of, but I was told if I took this, that would heal it. I was told if I take this course, it would reduce it, and it didn't. I was told by this doctor, this professional, A, B, and C, and now I'm on this medication, and now I've got side effects that I'm trying to deal with. So you're right, by the time they actually come to see you, they really are you are really for them, what they feel like is you are their last option, which I think is really sad, and I hope that changes in time. I hope that now there's a lot more information out there. Back when I was, 14, going straight on birth control and trying whatever the doctor would throw at me, it really wasn't known about the side effects of medications and, birth control as well, being on that for over 10 years. And we're a lot more aware now than we were. So I really hope that this shift changes, that if somebody does have that what they do first is look to, okay, looking at the basic fundamental pillars of my life first. Am I sleeping? How's my stress? How is, basic fundamental stuff. But what we do is we go, oh gosh, my skin's really getting to me. The doctor goes, what pill do you want? Oh, you're a female, birth control. And there's really no other question. There's no question around, how are things at school? Are you stressed over exams? How is your relationship with food? I know the argument always is there's not much time with the GP, but there's got to be some sort of process, before then birth control is being given, that then that person relies on until they have to come off of it for whatever reason, and their skin comes back, and then they're dealing with it 7 years on, 10 years on. So I think there's got to be a shift in how that's dealt with, I think, rather than the first port of call being a pill of something. And I hope it changes, but I think people are becoming more aware, and they're sort of taking their health into their own hands a lot more now than perhaps we were 15 years ago. So there is a shift, but yeah, usually by the time people come to me, they have tried an awful lot, and they've been let down an awful lot. It really is about just building rapport and trust, and that won't be an instant thing. And it really is about listening. People just want to be heard. This is my story. This is my struggle. This is how it's affected my life, and to be heard by somebody. Usually I'm the first person that's actually sat and listened to them for an hour about their journey, and they go, I get a lot of feedback of, oh, I feel so much better because I feel like you understand, or you're a person connecting with me, not a person in a code going, yeah, okay, and here's what we give you. And I'm listening. So even that for a lot of people can just make them feel so much better.
Yeah, that must be so rewarding, because it's that real concept of seeing people as as a whole person, like the holistic approach. And I don't know if you found this, but I think the term holistic has even had softer or weaker connotations to it, when actually really it's so magical and so empowering and so transformative when we consider the more holistic side of things. But I know for myself, absolutely certain, there's been unconscious judgment or bias around the terminology of holistic treatments, because it doesn't seem as it seems in conflict almost to the driven nature of someone who might be ambitious or high performing, or and like this interesting link then with stress and IBS and like all these other things that our body then goes through. Do you find that people are reluctant to consider that there are other things going on beyond the medical side, beyond the protein, beyond the like you say, the science? Or is it people are so like, just give me something here to work with, that they just, and is that how you get in with that trust? It's kind of like, here's something completely new that we've not even looked at yet to try.
It's interesting you say that, and that was basically the reason why I did the masters a couple of years in to the business, because I took a naturopathic, so I did a 3-year naturopathic medicine diploma, which was by far the most valuable thing I've done and learnt. And then a couple of years into the business, it wasn't that I was getting people kicking back, but you're right, it was people going, okay, but how is me feeling less stressed got really anything to do with my skin? Understandably, because there is this, I think by this point, most people think that what you eat has some impact on your skin. I think overall, there's some consensus here that sugar and dairy tend to be what every health, whether you're a derm, whether you're a nutritionist, dietitian, they tend to go, try those two things and see. So we've come a very long way, because only up until maybe a couple of years ago, it was nutrition had nothing to do with the way your skin looked. And that's what derms would say to clients. And because of that, here's your only option, here's a pill, because your diet's going to have no impact. The way you live is going to have no impact. So I guess the next step now for people is actually understanding that their nervous system has a huge impact on their skin through multiple pathways. And you have to get down into the science of it. And there is definitely, and I understand, but there definitely is this having extra accreditations that are mainstream with your name has it does help with the trust element. It does have people going, okay, well, you've got this and you've got this accreditation, then there must be something in it. But that's actually something I've really seen in clinic more and more and more over the last couple of years, that your lifestyle has, for some people, actually a bigger impact on their skin than what they're eating. And it's having to really convince them to try something, because for some people it genuinely is a link between the nervous system and their skin. So they might eat a fantastic diet, whatever that looks like, but they're stressed and they're not sleeping. And that is, honestly, I've seen it now be so transformational. People just sleeping better, like a better quality sleep. Or still having stress, because that's life, but actually having these little tools that manage it. And then several weeks later, they're going, oh my gosh, there's been a lift in my acne, and that's it. That's for you, what the missing piece is. So people are moving more towards that, which is amazing to see. But now and again, you do come up with somebody saying, okay, breathing's going to help. Like, try it. Like, I don't know about that. Give me a strict diet plan. And I'm like, but actually, I think that's what's going to do it. So we're still getting there, but it's worlds apart from even 5 years ago when I started out as a nutritionist. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. But yeah, you do. You get the camps of the two types, where I like to sit in the middle, actually. I actually quite like both approaches. I like evidence-backed. I like clinical data, but I also really love that the body is entirely connected. And if you don't support it and support the various systems, then it's hard to find that healing. And so I love both approaches, really. But you're right, it's hard to get people to shift from that allopathic approach, where pills are the solution, to actually you are in control of your health. You've got, if you're given the right tools and the right support, you can get there. And then you can learn about your body in ways you never thought. Then people learn so much about themselves. And that's really empowering, rather than as soon as I come off this pill, it's coming back. There's nothing empowering about that. So it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. So
yeah, it really sounds like it's this depth of a human experience, even having something like acne. And I'm not at all diminishing the impact of that. I mean, I I speak from someone who was very, very fortunate to not have acne as a teenager, but I did have friends who did. And I saw the impact of that on their confidence and their self-belief. And especially when you're going through puberty and, you know, as a woman or as a man and like all these, or whatever gender you are, like whatever changes you're going through, the confusion of all of that. And then you've got this kind of sense of, oh my gosh, but everyone must be looking at me even if they're not. And this navigation of that really does shift, I guess, the trajectory of a life in some ways. And it's no wonder then that some people are going to be really like, maybe have never in other areas of their life either opened their blinkers. Do you find that when people start to open up their mindset and look, you know, open up the blinker a little bit with you, do you find that their character shifts? Do they change as well? Are you like, wow, you're like actually a different person by the time you finish working with them?
Oh, you would be surprised the updates I get 6 months afterwards. I have people going, I'm now in a really happy relationship. And I think, I didn't even know. They were like, because I put myself out there now, because I just feel so much better in myself. Nothing's really changed that much, but just that lift has made me feel that confidence to go out there and meet somebody. Or the other day, I had somebody go for a job opportunity and get it. And they were like, I wouldn't have done that 6 months ago. I wouldn't have done it because I would have had to go to that interview feeling the way I feel. But the thing is, I think so many people think when I heal my acne, that will be when I'm like super confident. Actually, it's the journey of going, I did something for myself and I'm now more in control of my own health and how I feel. And people come to me because they think, right, acne, that's what I want to do. I don't care. Tell me what to do and I'll get rid of my acne. By the end, they're going, I'm speaking better to my partner because the way I'm living now, I actually feel like my mood's lifted. I feel because you're providing them with that comprehensive approach to health. Skin is a byproduct. It's actually not I don't go to someone just going, right, let's tackle the skin. I go, what's imbalanced here? Tell me about your gut. Tell me about your life. Like, tell me what's your journey been like. A lot of people sadly have a lot of trauma that you have to kind of, either you refer them to somebody or you do some work with them around that, depending on where they're at with it. And that can lift people. So yeah, their skin's better, great, that's why they came to me, but they're sleeping better, their mood's better, their relationships are better, their outlook on life's better. So you're right, we make things what they are, right? Our realities are, and somebody else, they might look at somebody and go, oh, your skin's not that bad. To that person, it's ruling everything, and it's putting this little dampener on everything. And once that's lifted and they did it, I give them the tools, but they had to every day do the work around that. It gives people a confidence they might not have had before, you know, depending on when they first had acne. So it's, oh yeah, the effects are amazing, absolutely amazing. So it's brilliant. I do love it. I love when they come back and after a while this happened and I go, that's amazing. But it's all them, because you can give people the tools, but they're the ones that are going to have to daily think about, you know, putting the work in, and that's quite hard. That's hard for anyone. So
I think this acknowledgement of actually, because the concept of doing the work, I think, has become so associated with like the healing space, or the kind of, whether you want to call it the trauma progression space or whatever. And I'm not diminishing trauma or the impact of life or healing. Like, don't get me wrong, I've done like years of healing around grief and all sorts of things. I've been there, I've done that journey. But this balance of it actually being a commitment and taking grit and having to feel very uncomfortable and having to kind of sit sometimes with not having the results yet. Like, and not even knowing necessarily what the results are going to be. There's such an almost like, what you're saying there is there's a letting go that has to happen of the outcome, to trust that an outcome will come.
100%. And the work for some people is to just sit still and not do anything. Like, the work for some people is to learn how to relax, and that is really hard for many people. Going to them, have nothing on, or, you know, carve out some time and just do nothing. Read a book. They're like, okay, what book am I going to read? And am I going to learn something from the book that I'm going to read? Or, you know, and it's like, just pick a silly book and read it, or go sit in the garden and just think about nothing. And that actually, for some people, is really hard work. It's actually not to be, I mean, I joke about it because there's commonalities.
I was going to say, I mean,
Exactly.
life on progress.
Exactly, yeah, always working.
Yeah.
But it is, for some people, that genuinely is the shift that gives their brain space to go, right, okay, I can now step forward. But so yeah, for some people the work is to switch off, and that's really not easy. Not with, you know, conditioning of society and upbringing and everything. So
The fact you give people the space to feel safe to do that. I talk a lot about safety and how we know that the body and brain as well, like you're saying, is conditioned to be dealing with the problem, but I need to do something. Like, what do I need to do? I need to do more things. And that sense of actually letting go and surrendering and that being safe is a new reality, is part of this new identity, I guess, without the acne and without this kind of burden or this sense of, I guess, like you were saying, kind of shame that comes with a skin condition. And I do find it fascinating now, and I don't know if you've seen a shift in it with social media. You know, we grew up with the equivalent with whether it's magazines, TV, like we had it. It wasn't like we didn't not have it. Like I've been very open about the fact that I think I had an eating disorder as a teen because of the world in which I saw very thin people being celebrated, and that being the status and that being the thing that was lauded. But now with it everywhere and this whole thing around skin and anti-aging, which I actually now ironically feel, not ironically, but it's almost like the gift of having to do the hard work. I'm now like, I'm not impacted by seeing that, but I'm sure I must be. There must be unconscious, subconscious work going on that says it's okay, you don't need that. Do you find now that there is an even bigger pressure compared to a few years ago, or is it that it's just actually hasn't really shifted much?
100%. And something that has surprised me is the trends now moving towards teenage skincare and tween skincare. So children as young as 8 now having complex skincare routines, and it's a huge movement and a huge trend. As young as 8 years old are having complex skincare routines. And I think, gosh, you know, the pressure. I mean, we talk about, you know, puberty being a pressure and being a young woman and moving through all the different life stages. 8 years old having to worry about a, doing a complex skincare routine every night. And it's just because that's what a TikTok trend, that's what's all over TikTok, and it's big. I was shocked when I really looked into it, because I thought, oh no, surely not. I looked into it and I was like, wow, this is a big movement. And then it's moving into teen skincare, and then, you know, so before me and you think, well, wait a minute, no, that's not, but it really is a thing. And it's I've been approached by press about, can you comment on tween skincare? And I'm, no, I don't. I definitely am not gonna. The idea that is even a trend is very worrying. It's
Yeah,
very,
that's terrifying. 8 years old. And I guess it's so fascinating because, from my understanding, and I only learnt this a few years ago and it blew my mind, the skin is our biggest organ. Is that right? Like, it, because of the coverage, literally, of our bodies, like the skin is our biggest organ. And for years, I almost rejected the idea of a skincare routine because I've probably been very lucky with my skin, and also in rejection to the well-being industry or this idea of needing to look a certain way. But then I was like, hang on though, if the skin is an organ and I also want to look after it, what is the line? And so I guess the intention behind it is really important. Like, why are we looking after our skin, and what do we want from it, and how much of it actually is from that place of deep connection and self-worth and self-respect versus I just need to be seen in a certain way, or I need to do it for someone else, you know, this kind of concept of the gaze of others. And, you know, for an 8-year-old, what is that intention? Is it to nurture skin, or is it already to be talking about this prevention of what, wrinkles? Like, what is that? Where is the line?
that's exactly right. And at 8 years old, you haven't even had the effects of what puberty can do temporarily to skin. You know, a bit of acne during your teenage years can be quite normal. It can be due to those hormonal fluctuations. But I do think that younger and younger people are having access now to social media, and they're looking at potentially older people that all seem to have perfect skin. And at 8 years old, I don't think you'd be able to understand what a filter even if you're told, TikTok's full of filters or Instagram's full of filters. Most of the things that you're seeing aren't real. I don't think my 36-year-old brain would still go, God, her skin looks great, and then I'll read a comment and it'll be like, good filter. I think, oh my gosh, I can't tell. How can an 8-year-old tell that none of that is real? It's just, so it makes me sad. It makes me sad to think that poor person, if, for example, that little girl, if she hits puberty and starts getting a couple of breakouts, which she may grow out of. Some people genuinely do. Puberty finishes, they didn't have stuff going on, any imbalances, and then they move on. Heaven forbid she gets to 12 and gets a spot or two. I mean, the amount of self-talk, or the amount of other people don't look like this on social media. I dread to think what patterns that would leave somebody, really, to then have to work through in their life. So it's worrying. It really is.
It is worrying, and I think I have a daughter now who's only 3.5, but it does make me think about this. How do we talk about this kind of stuff, and how do we also respect that? Yeah, ultimately, sometimes these skin conditions that we have can lead to. Well, I think you even have referenced it before as well, to feeling really insecure about how you felt, and like the anxiety that comes from that, and the way that impacts life, and the confidence and the stripping of the joy that can take. What would you say to anyone that is really, whatever their age, really stuck in a cycle of, even if that single kind of breakout completely spirals into that bigger thing, that becomes all you can look at? What would you say to someone that was in that position where they can just feel day after day after day that anxiety is building and the confidence is going, and then, as we know, that spirals into all these other thoughts and feelings that we have? What would you say to them?
Something that I always say, and it's a lot easier said than done when you really are in the depths of it, is think about all of the qualities that you have that have absolutely nothing to do with your skin, and actually think about the people around you and what your favorite thing is about them. It will not be their skin. It won't. It never is. Why would it? If your mum or your dad, you're not going to go, my favorite thing about my mum is that she has great skin. It's
true.
like, it's so low on the list of anyone's. The thing about it is, when you're outside of it, it feels insignificant to go, you might comment, oh, she's got great skin, and you move on. To somebody with acne, it's like, it's this hyper focus, but to the world around you, it isn't what you make it. And that's all of our, perception of everything in our lives, isn't it? We make them bigger. But if you actually think about the things that bring you joy in life, and the relationships that you have with the people around you, or what people would say about you, your skin and their skin would be very, very low on the list of things that would even come to their mind when they think about you. And I think in my life as well, even when I had acne, and even when it was like, it's absolute, most unmanageable, I never noticed other people's acne. It's strange. And I think, well, if I was in that position and my skin was at its worst, and I would never notice acne on somebody else, no one's probably even noticing it on me at all. So I think it really is actually putting the focus on all the other qualities that you have as a human being, and what other people actually care about. And it really won't be the way your skin looks that day, or anything the way it looks. The lasting impact you leave on the world and people is about who you are, not what you look like. So easy for me to say, because I've been through such a long journey myself with it, and I'm not 14, dealing with life at that age. If somebody had told me that at 14, I'd go, yeah, that sounds good.
So true.
Anyway, but you just learn as life goes on. You just learn that those things are, and we're all going to change anyway. We're all going to get older. We're all going to look different, and that's life, and it's beautiful. We're all going to look different at different stages of our life. So if you feel this way now, your skin will change. Even your acne will change. Even if you did nothing today, didn't eat differently, live differently, skin is unpredictable at the best of times. That breakout might go away next week. it's, acne isn't this stagnant thing. We start to think it is. We start to think that it is who we are, but it really isn't. It ebbs and flows like so many things, like the way we look, like everything else. So we start to think we're kind of this snapshot of our life right now, and what our skin's doing is the way it's always going to be. It can't even be that way. So yeah, and I do think as well, maybe changing the algorithm a bit of things that you look at starts,
Good idea.
putting different, I actually say to people that really struggle, I say, go through your phone and unfollow or mute any account that makes you feel a certain way about yourself and about the way your skin looks. Just give it a good clear, because while you think, because people go, oh, that won't impact me, that won't impact me, I'm whatever age, I'm past it. No, we are all impacted by the things that we look at. We just are. It's just a human experience. So I get people to go through certain exercises to just have a bit of a clear. And oh, I feel better, like that over the last week. Oh, I'm actually feeling a bit better. Yeah, because we all do it. We can't help it. We're social creatures. So what we're looking at, there is some level of comparison. It's not right, it's not fair, but that's just what we do. And we're comparing ourselves to things that aren't even real. So yeah, having a really good clear out. If somebody really is feeling that way, and then follow feel good accounts that have nothing to do with skin. I would just come off all of the skin stuff as well, because it just will make you focus on that thing that can just at times be completely out of our control. But yeah, it's really easy, much easier said than done.
Yeah, it's that real kind of like everything that you were saying at the beginning about trust and shifting the focus from, it's kind of that idea. It always makes me think of, like, if you're told to not think of a pink elephant, you're going to think of a pink elephant. It's like if you're constantly thinking about, I need to get rid of the acne, I need to get rid of this, I need to eat like this, like it's almost like all the space for anything else to exist just goes, or we can't even consider an alternative outcome because we're trying to solve the problem. And actually sometimes by having that space, like you say, you do end up seeing the world a bit differently, and then something else shifts. You maybe reduce your stress without realizing it, and then that might impact how you eat, which then can impact everything, like even with your gut. I think it's fascinating, like you were saying, this link between IBS and the gut and our skin, and this whole idea of the whole body, and this very much like everything is working together. When you work with someone, I know it's impossible because I'm asking you a very specific question about a very broad concept and vice versa. Where on earth do you start? Obviously you kind of have your process and it's not necessarily about the specific of that, but how do you know when it's, I guess it's all linked, isn't it? Like it's not just going to be someone's gut, like it's also going to be how they're eating and how they're sleeping. It is this bigger picture.
It's such a good question. I always am very much of the thought that though I am the expert they're coming to, they know themselves better than I will ever know them. So usually my first round of questions is, you tell me what you think it is. And then they'll say, I've had gut issues for over 10 years, or my periods are really irregular, or I have debilitating PMS. And then we'll actually build out from there. So I usually find out for them what their key areas are that actually I actually kind of go, okay, acne, anyway, let's look at these other systems. Yes. And people go, why are you asking me about
what about this?
Yeah, why are you asking me about, because sometimes the questions can seem odd. So for example, with the liver and skin are connected. So liver is the main detox organ of the body, but when it's overloaded from stress, antibiotics, chemicals, modern living, when it is overwhelmed, then those toxins that should be filtered through the liver take another route and come out in the skin. So I always look at liver work, because if the liver is overwhelmed, somebody might have had a history of 10 years of meds for their acne, their liver really needs like some work, some support. And then you're asking questions, because questions around the liver could be, how are you with smells? Yeah, as the years have gone on, I'm very sensitive to perfume. That can be a sign that your liver's overwhelmed.
What?
Really interesting, isn't it? Really strange. Yeah, and there's some strange questions, but that's after really actually going, what are the big things here? What else are you struggling with? It's very, very rare in the 5 years that I've had acne clients, there might be maybe 3 or 4 where their health has seemed perfect. And in 5 years, only half a handful of people have come to me, and I've actually sat down with them and gone, yeah, your gut's great, you know, your sleep's great, your stress is great. Because sometimes people think they're not stressed, and you really dig in and they go, oh, right, I'm just managing. Because sometimes, I mean, especially for women, we're so good at managing. We're so good at managing. They go, I'm not stressed because I'm not screaming at everyone. I'm like, well, you know what? Actually, there's some stuff going. And then they go, God, you know what? Yeah, because I have this habit that I do at night to calm me down, but I think I'm managing it. So for a lot of people, they come and they go, no, stress isn't a thing. It's about what I'm eating. And I go, well, let's just explore that, because it may be the case, but for a lot of people, it's really suppressed, actually, like stress can be. And I understand, because it's like, well, it's life, let's go, what am I going to do, you know, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. So it really is actually first about going broad, and then how's it linked, you know, how is your gut impacting your skin, through what channels? How is your hormones linked to your gut, and how, because the hormonal system and the gut system are intrinsically linked. If you've got issues going on with your gut, chances are that's skewing your hormone health. I've seen that a lot, actually, and vice versa. So it really is about, what are your areas of imbalance and how are they linked, and then how do we support that, you know, together to then, and the body, like with health and like with disease, because it's so connected, one area lifts, another lifts, and it's like this positive, you know, giving somebody an hour more of quality sleep will change their life, will absolutely change their life. And it will just, they wake up in a better mood, and then this happens, and then, you know, it's like this amazing positive cascade. And then a month later, they're like, oh, I'm feeling better, my skin's looking better. And they think it's small, but it's huge. These pillars of health are huge, you know. Sometimes you don't have to overcomplicate it either. Some people, you know, not that often, but some people are really simple cases where they just needed somebody to reflect back onto them what's going on, and they go, oh, okay, is that it? Yeah, go and do that. Are you sure? That seems simple, you know, like
not hard enough.
Yeah, like you're asking me to do that, and then you come and they go, yeah, okay. So sometimes it really is just simple, but it really is listening to the person and what they're telling you as well. If you start going in going, I know better than my client knows, you know, they're saying this might, no, you start doing that, I think then A, there's a huge disconnect, and B, you will always know yourself better than anyone else could ever know you. So it is always taking their lead, and then going into kind of, okay, you know, what are the associations and patterns? So it's quite a like a detective work type thing. You're kind of going, this clue, that clue, how does that link in here, and how does that link? So it's great, because everybody's so different, and everyone's history is so different, and health is so different. So I can have 10 people come to me with acne, and what's driving it are completely different. Like with IBS, 10 different people come to you with IBS symptoms, and what's driving their IBS can be completely different. So it really is, you have to take that person for who they are when they turn up to work with you. If you go, oh, I've seen this before, it's this, you know, you can't start assuming things, because that's where you know, become unstuck, I think, with helping them, when you start to think you know better or jump ahead. So my approach is always a very modest, collaborative approach. You know, you tell me what you think, and let's discover that. And it tends to have been a good approach so far. So
I mean, it sounds, I think it's like what that kind of saying, what is it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's kind of like the simple, it can be simple, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's not actually, we don't have to do more work. We might need to work hard in certain bits, and it might be uncomfortable, but we don't need to actually overcomplicate it. And as you were talking then, I was like, gosh, this is really around filling tanks and nourishing and kind of everything sounds like it's stripped. You know, when people come see you, it's kind of like the body's hunger for replenishment and for fuel and for, I don't know, I just had this image of of everything just being like drained dry, and without realizing it, because it becomes a state that we're so used to living in now, you know, this kind of idea that actually so many people slip into, whether it's burnout or stress, and it just becomes the state of consistency. I mean, it's familiar. So then we're like, well, I don't want to let go of that because I don't want to be in this new unfamiliar territory of actually being calm and having energy and being nourished. It's ironic that we are so conditioned to actually feeling so stripped that we're like, well, hang on, this is familiar.
100%. If you've not been well for a very long time, the idea of feeling well probably feels quite overwhelming, because people start to go, well, then what does that mean? Do I have to then, like, do, you know, what does it, it doesn't mean anything. It could mean as much or as little as you want to, but everyone deserves to feel well. Everyone deserves good health. And it's sad because you get some clients where you can tell they don't there's something that they don't quite believe that it's for them, like they're a special, unique case that life dealt them a bad hand and they could never really be really healthy. I find that so sad, because it's one of the basic pillars we should all have. We all deserve it. We all deserve to wake up in the morning and feel well. So sometimes that can be really hard when you have somebody where you go, God, you really do think that like somehow it's just not going to happen for you with your skin. And it really is kind of giving them that space actually to feel that way as well. Because there's a lot of shame around acne. I wish there wasn't. There's nothing, no one's done anything to give themselves a skin condition, but people start to really make it about something they've done or not done. And that can also be a lovely thing. You telling someone, look, you don't have the tools, you know, you only know what you knew at the time, because people go, why was I taking antibiotics for 3 years? You only knew what you knew then. Like, I understand why you feel that way, but if you knew then what you knew now, or, you know, if the doctor then knew what they knew now. So there is sadly a lot of shame around that. And there's a lot of shame around health, I think, in general. And again, we go back to social media, all these healthy people out there doing these crazy things. We never know what's going on behind doors with that person. You know, there's a lot of people in the fitness space that have their chronic health issues they deal with behind closed doors. So it is this whole comparison game, I think, isn't it? Of thinking that something about you means that you can't get what you deserve in life.
100%. And I think that's why your clients sound like they're so lucky to work with you, because you're holding space across so many different parts, whether it is that holistic space or the science space or the, you know, the more kind of naturopathic space, and all of these tools that you have to really see that person. And from that perspective of what's going on for you, you really understand them. And I think this is the challenge with the brain and how strong it can be with the thoughts that we have, and that sense of, why me? What have I done to deserve this? And you know, why these other people don't have this happening? And likewise, like you say, with the fitness kind of side of stuff, I think it's so important. You know, I feel like everyone that shows up online with these amazing bodies also needs to document the help they have at home, or their eating patterns, and actually, oh, maybe is that healthy? I'm not sure. Maybe that's spanning into eating disorder territory. And it might not be, because of course some of us work hard and we have bodies we're happy in, and it's not about any of that. But just these disclaimers of understanding the bigger picture, like you see your clients, so that actually, not that we're walking around with a billboard with like, I have this because of that. It's just more this sense of the understanding before we even jump to, it's something I've done wrong, for that self-compassion to say, actually, I'm human, you're human, and, you know, we'll do what we can here, but sometimes these things happen for no logical reason, but let's get to the crux of what we can. Do you find with acne that sometimes there has been a trigger for it? Or is it that often it is genetic, or it's just one of these kind of combinations of things exploding at the same time?
Such a good question, because that really is something that I will explore with somebody. So you have people come to you and they go, I don't know how this began, but it did. And the patterns I see is you either have acne that begins at puberty and that doesn't go away, just stays, or you have acne that comes as an adult, so adult onset acne. And that's for people that have acne, the acne began and has continued over the age of 25. And the main differences I find between the two are that adult onset acne tends to happen after a particularly stressful life event. So I see that an awful lot. So that could be a huge breakup, a marriage breakdown, a big move. For some people, it's the stress of studies and coming to the end of a very stressful few years of studying. That nervous system link is very strong when somebody has acne in adult years. I see that so strongly that now it's my go-to question. One of the first questions I ask them: when your acne began at 24, what was happening? Oh, I was going through a 8-year breakup. Okay, let's explore from then what was going on. And it could be from then this happened, that, you know this as well, and you said as well, you've worked through a lot of that. When something like that happens, it's not in a vacuum of your life. You might then start to develop habits around food, lifestyle, like your body is dealing with this thing that it can't deal with. So you then do other things and then 2-3 years go on. I've had people say that happened, and then I was drinking a lot, or then I was eating a lot of convenience foods because I didn't have the energy to cook. Normal things that people know, like the way their normal bodies would respond to something like that. And then they go, oh, wait, so then me doing that has meant I've got acne. I'm like, no, it's naturally what all of us would do, but it's helping explaining maybe why we're here and how to actually reverse engineer that. So a lot of the times with things like that, okay, we need to really do some nervous system work here. So whether it's something that is in my remit or whether we need to then work with another professional, because I very much know my limit. The body is entirely connected head to toe, and the nervous system is as central as the gut health, truly is. But if I feel like it's something that needs outside help, I'm the first to say I can give you some tips and I can tell you nutritionally how to support your nervous system, but I think here you need this help, or I think you need that help. So I work a lot with people actually that also work alongside other therapies, which is amazing, because gosh, some of the results people have in their lives, being especially disordered eating, though I had a history, I'm very aware to go, I don't know everything there is to know, and and I'm not qualified in that. So if I feel like there's some patterns here that I can't help that person with, then I will say, look, to continue, I would feel comfortable if we work with somebody else alongside, and it can be amazing. So you do also have to know your limits, I think, as a practitioner. You can't be everything to everyone, even if you want to be something. When somebody comes and they're struggling, you're like, I'm going to help you. And you have to go, no. This isn't, you cannot fix everyone, But yeah, so it is a comprehensive approach, but you do have to kind of know your limits.
And I think, like you're saying, that beauty of actually getting the support across all areas, and that really, like, it's such a shame as when we leave school, we weren't necessarily taught some of these practices anyway, but that there are these individuals out there now that kind of can help, like you do, that people can come to you and they can literally transform their life through this facing up to essentially a lot of these deeper, harder things to face up to. And I just wondered, like, as you've been talking, I've just been wondering about whether there have been any parallels with the journey that you've been on with your skin and your practice, and with the nutrition side of things with the people you've worked with, and building a business with it. How has your journey with your skin and everything you've overcome, because I don't want to diminish it. I know we're talking about these things on a very visceral, top surface level kind of conversation, but they run so deeply to the core of your experience as a human. What parallels are there between that journey and setting up and working for yourself?
That is a fantastic question, because I think business reflects life and life reflects business, and you can't get around that. And if you think that you can separate the two, good luck with that. Especially if you are sort of, especially as any business owner of any business of any size, actually. I was just going to say, but when you are sort of, especially when it reflects what you've had in your life, and then now you're helping other people. I think that, just as I said previously, I used to have, in the first couple of years of business, quite poor boundaries with clients. And I found that actually really a real struggle to overcome, because there's empathy to a point, and I had to learn that. There's empathy, and then there's a line, and then there's enabling. And I had to learn the hard way.
I think I need to write that down. That's like, so that needs to be put into a whole like framework.
Honestly, yes. And that line was not there. It was not there. Because I thought, I know how that feels. Oh gosh, you like poor thing, and that fit. And especially when people would get upset, 'cause it's such an emotional condition. And then you start to go down, right, I'm going to throw everything I know at this and everything that I do. So I would take calls at 10:30 on a Friday night. I'd respond to emails first thing on a Sunday morning. I would work 7 days a week, and people would have access to me whenever they needed access to me. And actually what I learned a lot through that was people start to, though they don't mean to, you start to develop this kind of parent-child relationship, and then they start to resent you a little bit, and then you start to take on responsibility for everything. So something I had to learn was, you will give somebody the tools and you will do your very best to make them feel comfortable, make them feel like you are on their side, which you are, but also you are a professional providing a service. That probably took me about 3 years to really truly work out that if I'm actually going to help people make a difference, I need to stop behaving like the older sister to someone and seeing myself as them, at that age, and going, gosh, I remember what that did for me. And, so in terms of that, it's been amazing doing a business that's so close to my heart, but there are good and bad parts to that, because it was very hard to professionally distance myself from that. And then, but burnout, which probably every business owner has had. About 3 years in, I thought, do I even want to do this? Is this just... And then you get into that mindset of, people want things from me. And it's like, because you don't have boundaries. That's why you're burnt out and you're feeling hard done to. Sounds like hard, I've learned from that. But you start to go, this is a lot, and people expect a lot. Well, yeah, if you're always picking up the phone on a Friday night and you're always responding to emails within an hour of being sent one, then they're gonna be irked if you don't reply for a day or two. They're going to say, where are you? You usually respond within an hour. Why aren't you picking up on a Friday night? You picked up last Friday night. So it was a learning of, I'm the one that sets the pace here. I'm the professional at the two of us. I'm the one providing the service. So I think boundaries was a big one. And then that's made a huge actually difference in my business. I enjoy the job and the business as much as I did in the first year when it was exciting and everything. So that's probably the big learning, I would say, is that sort of type A perfectionist streak that I had when I was managing my acne, or trying to manage it, and now trying to help other people with their acne. It was really going, you can't help everybody all the time, and you can't always. So I think that's definitely helped shift the business. It opens you up then to do more, because you're not spending time doing those things. That's what I would say. Definitely, I think there has been a reflection in the business.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I just think it's that's such valuable insight too. And I think it took me a very long time to do similar, to shift from this being nice to being kind, and exactly like you say, this line of enabling versus I actually can't do the work for someone, and it's like you can't actually do the work for someone, and then letting go. And as you say, that just opens up space for capacity to do all these other things. So thank you for sharing that, because that was, I was like, I'm just so intrigued. I'm sure there must be a parallel there. And like you say, that characteristic of who we are as people, and how invaluable that is to recognise and not have shame around it, just to nurture it and to say, well, how can this version of me that has these qualities, how can I use them to an advantage rather than against myself?
100%. And I actually do think that it tends to be more a female thing as well in business, doesn't it? We tend to really want everyone to like us. And actually, I think it has an impact on us then, and how we kind of show up in the world. But it's actually been, it's been a lot better. I've actually had healthier relationships from going, no, here's my boundary, so it's actually definitely been a positive thing. I would never now go back. I've definitely learned, and it's been a lot more effective.
Oh, thank you so much, Shag. It's a bit like when you trust the process and then you get the results. You're like, oh, actually, I don't want to go back. You've filled up those tanks. Stress
Yes.
be a thing of the past. I could talk to you all day, Steph. I've got one question that I always ask someone that I'm going to ask you now. And that is, what are you doing when you are truly thriving? Who is that version of you and what are you doing?
Ooh, the version of me that's truly thriving was the version of me this morning. So I was up early and I was walking down towards the gym, and it was cloudy, but the sun was coming through the clouds. And I looked up at the sky and went, I'm alive. It's a beautiful day. How lucky am I?
Oh,
And that's it, honestly. And I thought, well, yep, I'm good. I'm here. That's my definition of having the space to be able to do that and not have this going on. So yeah, I would say that that's what it is for me.
thank you so much for sharing that. And what would that version of you, what advice would that version of you this morning had given the version of you at the very beginning of your journey with facing up to the challenges that you had with acne?
Everything changes, good and bad. Everything changes. So you're allowed to feel how you feel about your skin right now, but it will change. Whether you like it or not, it will change. And that's what I would say. It will be different. And that's that, really, to oversimplify it perhaps, but
No, I think it's wonderful, this simple courage of it. There's going to be moments of survival and joy and everything in between. It's kind of, there's a real peace almost in that, of just kind of take it as it comes. You've got it.
exactly.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of your insight, all of your wisdom, and with such generosity as well of your own experiences, Steph. How can people work with you, come find you? Where are you online? Where do people need to go to find you?
So the two best places to find me would be my website, so stephaniejnutrition.com. But a better place to find me is Instagram. That's probably the place where I'm the most active. So if you do have Instagram, a DM would probably be the quickest, easiest way to get a hold of me. So those
Great.
would be probably the two best ways.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll link those all in the show notes so you can go and find Steph really easily. Steph, thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to impart or share before we close today's episode?
All I would say is if you do have acne, you are absolutely not alone, and it will change because everything changes. So no matter how you're feeling today about your skin, it will be different tomorrow. And again, I know I'm oversimplifying that, but that's somebody that struggled for a very long time. So it will change, and how you feel about it will change, and how it look will change, and that's inevitable. So if you are struggling today, it will be better.
Thank you. And if you are someone that's listened to this, do reach out to Steph. I can totally vouch that she is a wonderful, lovely person. And also share this episode perhaps with someone, if you don't have skin challenges, with someone who does, because it's a very isolating thing to live through. And sometimes we just need that, that recommendation or that nudge or that sense of, here you go, listen to this, and I think it will help, So do share this episode with anyone that you know who could benefit from it, because it does help to let them feel a little less alone too. But Steph, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, we'll do the Club Thrive _ a couple of changes over here, but anyway, it's all linked to the show notes. Have an amazing week. We've been talking so much, my brain has turned to mush. Have an amazing week, and we will be back online next week. Thank you for listening, and have a good one. See you later. Bye.